friends, greetings and welcome to The Bright Side, your nutritional program dedicated to the understanding of the vast world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. I'm pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado. I specialize in using nutritional supplements where other healthcare practitioners use toxic pharmaceutical drugs and sometimes deadly medical procedures. If you suspect that there are natural nutritional roads to your health and vitality and well-being and to addressing your health challenges, whatever they may be, but you don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place. As you listen to The Bright Side every day, you are more and more in control of your body. You are more and more knowledgeable, and you know you can overcome any health issue. That's why we're here every day on The Bright Side, helping clear up the sometimes confusing world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. Over the last 29 years of practicing pharmacy, I have seen drug-free recoveries from diabetes and hypertension and obesity and skin diseases like acne, psoriasis, rosacea, eczema, digestive ailments, autoimmune issues of all kinds, recoveries that by the standards of modern medicine can only be called a miracle. But what is in the world of the body, what is in the world of biology, standard operating procedure. Because the human body is a healing system. It's a regenerating system. It is designed divinely to heal and renew itself on a moment-to-moment basis. And while some folks may call that a miracle, it really is just the way the body works. If you have questions about health or nutrition or prescription drugs, we want to hear from you. Let us show you how easy it can be to reverse any, and I mean any, chronic degenerative disease. It's in the body's nature to heal. If you're dealing with arthritis or diabetes or an autoimmune issue, heart disease, whatever, please know that the body is a healing system. It's designed to heal. Not that we do any work. It does the work. All we got to do is figure out what's mucking up the system and put some good nutrition in, work on some mental and emotional strategies, spiritual strategies, and that's it. It's in the nature of the body to heal. Nobody has to suffer. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you have health challenges you want help with, if you want to wean yourself off your meds, if you've got a question or comment about the longevity products, 844-236-6010 is our number. We got a guest at the bottom of the hour. Dr. Jonathan Graff is going to be talking to us about the secrets for reversing hair loss. And Dr. Graff says there's three. He says there's only three ways to do it. I think he's a medical. Let me see if he's a medical doctor here. Director of Clinical Education at Apira Science. No, he's not a medical doctor, but he's got three. He says there's only three ways to reverse hair loss. We'll talk to Jonathan Graff at the bottom of the hour. Take your calls in our next segment. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you want to purchase any of the longevity products you hear advertised on the program, head over to brightsideben.com, also pharmacistben.com or criticalhealthnews.com. And if you want to purchase any of our Truth Treatment products, including our retinol 5% gel, leverage the power of retinol. If you haven't been able to use retinol in the past or retinoic acid in the past, this is a product that you want to check out. It's made with vitamin C, it's made with retinol, and none of the crap. No preservatives, no fragrances, no waxes, no oils, no nothing that your skin doesn't need or want. TruthTreatments.com, retinol 5% gel. You can also check out our other Truth Treatment products, TruthTreatments.com. All right, we're talking about fats and water and the distinction between the two. We said there's two categories of substances that a cell needs to do its business, watery and fatty. Fat-soluble nutrients, your EFAs, fatty vitamins, some of the minerals. They're a little trickier to work with than the watery substances. We're talking skin health, so we've been focusing on fats. The skin is a fatty organ. And because fats are so sticky and difficult for the body to process, if you're talking about fats and getting the value of vitamin A and value of vitamin E and K and D and your EFAs, it's not enough just to take them. I hear this all the time, but I'm taking my vitamin A and I'm taking my EFAs, but my hands still look like crap, and I still got eczema, and I still got psoriasis, and I still have dry skin. That's because fats are tricky. They're sticky. They're sticky and they're tricky to absorb, to utilize, for the body to utilize. And because steroid hormones, growth hormones, fertility hormones all come from those fats, you got to be careful, especially if you're getting older. You got to be careful about making sure you're absorbing your fats. And there's lots of ways to support fat absorption. And in my opinion, especially as we get older, these strategies for improving fat absorption are just as important as nutritional supplementation. Again, if you're not, you can take all the nutrition you want, but if you're not absorbing, that doesn't help you. Bile salts, a must have for a lot of reasons. Bile salts are actually almost like hormones themselves. They are just powerful, powerful substances, and you can get them over the counter. You can get them at a health food store, and you can get them from your Ultimate Enzymes from Longevity. The Ultimate Enzymes are an amazing multifunctional health product for blood thinning, for anti-inflammatory effects, for digestion. Now, the bile salts are basically digestive, but they also are involved in turning on the amping up the digestive system, revving it up, not just in helping us absorb fats, but in overall digestion. I love, by the way, lecithin. And lecithin and bile have a very, very interesting relationship. Apple cider vinegar, lipase, chewing your food. These are all great strategies. I'll talk about these here probably tomorrow. We'll get to talking about these individually. And keep your gallbladder. You need your gallbladder. Unless you are in absolute misery and severe agony and you have no other option for dealing with the pain of a gallstone, keep your gallbladder. The gallbladder is a bag of bile. And yes, it's true that you can survive without this bag of bile, but you can't optimally digest your food. All you have to do is understand a little anatomy and a little biology, not a lot. When we eat a food, it goes into our stomach does its business, it grinds up the food, and then it saturates it with enzymes, and then that food from the stomach drops into the intestine. There's a little connection right at the bottom of the stomach to the intestine, a valve that opens up. Actually, it's a sphincter. It's a muscle thing. I think it's a muscle thing. Whatever it is, it goes from the stomach to the intestine. And as soon as it hits the intestine, boom, a blast o' bile comes into that juncture right at the beginning of the intestine. It just hits from the gallbladder. It hits that food that's just dropped into the intestine and completely changes the quality of that food. It digests it. It breaks it down. It neutralizes it. It changes that mass. Now, without that gallbladder, that's not going to happen. And that food's going to sit there. And it's true that you can get a little tiny drop of bile coming in from the liver, but you don't get that big hit that comes from the gallbladder unless you have a gallbladder. Keep your gallbladder. 20 million Americans have gallstones, and gallstones are a sign of, obviously, if you understand a little biology and a little anatomy, you know what a gallstone is. Check this out. There are so many people, millions, 20 million Americans maybe have gallstone problems. And I'll bet you not 1% knows what a gallstone really is. And how the heck are we going to take care of our gallstones or our gallbladders or our bodies in general if we don't understand these kinds of basic things? If we got stones and the doctor says to us, oh, you're going to have to take your gallbladder out, sir, ma'am, it's usually women, we're going to have to take your gallbladder out. And you don't know what the gallbladder does, you don't know what causes a gallstone, you're going to be much more likely to listen to the so-called authority. Well, that's what this program is. That's where this program comes in. We make you the authority, as it should be. We should be our own authorities. Authority comes from the word author, as in writing your story. When we have health authorities, we got some doctor writing our health story for us. That's not good. That's why we're so sick, because we let other people write our stories. So be your own health authority, understand what the body's about, keep your gallbladder, understand that gallstones are a sign of dirty bile. Here's the thing about bile that's so fascinating and makes it so important and so underappreciated. Bile equals detox. Not only is bile absolutely vital for helping you digest your food, but bile helps clean out drugs. It helps clean out old hormones. It helps clean out food allergens. It helps process and clean out the blood. Basically, we always say on this program that all disease is dirty blood, all degenerative disease is dirty blood. So the logical question is how can we clean our blood? Well, bile's a blood cleaner. Bile helps the body dump out waste. If we get a lot of waste, we're going to end up with dirty, sludgy bile. Hence your gallstones. That's where gallstones come from. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We'll come back and take your phone calls. 844-236-6210 is our number. Don't go away. Got more good health information and your phone calls right after this. Okay, welcome back to The Bright Side. Got Jonathan Graff coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk about hair loss. Jonathan Graff says there are only 3 ways to reverse hair loss, and this is going to be kind of interesting. Jonathan is the Director of Clinical Education at Aspira Science. We'll get to him at the bottom of the hour. We'll take your phone calls. This segment, 844-236-6010 is our number. If you're interested in purchasing any of our Truth Treatment products, including our Retinol 5% gel or our Omega-6 Healing Cream or Truth Serum or Truth Balm, all made without preservatives and fragrances and without wax and oil. And only thing I use in my formulations from now on, I admit I had to be a mercenary back in the day. I had partners and I had to be much more bottom line concentrated. But what I always wanted to do was create products that were just the things your skin needs. No oil, no wax, no preservative. Why should you have to pay for that stuff? Well, it's not helping you at all. It's not providing you with any benefit at all. If you could figure out how to formulate without it, wouldn't that make sense? Well, you can. It just takes a little know-how, and it is a little bit more expensive to do it that way, but it's worth it. You end up with products that last a long time, that have high amounts of activity, and that don't force you to have to deal with toxicity or waste, and you get more bang for your buck. It's only fair. It's only honest. That's why I call it the truth. TruthTreatments.com, Retinol 5% gel. That's my favorite. That's the most powerful of our products. If you're interested in joining the longevity team, call the Brightside Ben phone team, please, at 866-735-2470. Okay, let's see. Tomorrow we'll talk about a couple really cool ingredients, maybe 2 or 3 really, really cool ingredients that aren't necessarily, they don't have the reputation that nutritional supplements have, but they've got really wonderful health benefits. And we've talked about these in the past, but some people are still skeptical. And I do sometimes read about how using a couple of these ingredients in particular is more about marketing and more scammery than it is accurate health information. But I'm going to tell you tomorrow why that's not true. Particularly I'm talking about apple cider vinegar and then also lecithin granules. We'll do that tomorrow on the Bright Side as we continue talking fats and fat absorption and hormones and skin health on the Bright Side. 844-236-6010 is our number. Let's go to Mr. X in Tennessee. What's up, Mr. X? You out there in the woods somewhere in Tennessee?
Yeah. Out here in a hovel, a little hermit's den. So anyway, I've called strangely over some of the stuff you're even going to talk about later with the hair return. I want to talk about hygiene.
Okay.
I read it was everywhere. You probably saw it. Man doesn't take a shower in 12 years. Sprays himself with good bacteria, as he calls it.
I hadn't seen that, but that's kind of interesting.
Have you seen that?
No. Go ahead, though.
Oh, it was everywhere. It was all over ABC, UK, all
recently.
Mirror,
recently.
Telegraph.
Recently?
Yeah. He's a scientist, and he started wondering, but what, because his friend asked him about horse taking dirt baths in the dirt and why they could, stay clean and healthy. So he, anyway, I only say this because I have come to a similar thing. I don't spray bacteria on my skin. I do cultivate the good bacteria and leave it there, and in doing that, I've quit using all of the scented, perfumed, any product
That's
that
awesome.
is not. All I use on my skin are oils and hydrogen peroxide and
That's
clean
awesome.
water. I don't use chlorinated water on my skin.
Let me ask you a couple questions. If you don't mind here, because we're going to run out of time. First of all, the hydrogen peroxide is going to kill the bacteria. First of all, right? So if you do the okay, so you're saying you spray probiotics on your skin instead of cleansers and soap?
No, I do not. The 3 things I put on my skin are things I do put. If I need something, I'll put silver or apple cider vinegar or such things on my skin. But the first thing I go to is hydrogen peroxide. But I also use that to clean. Let me just quickly. No, I don't do it. What this guy does. You can look it up.
Will you send me a link? Do you have a link? Do you have a link for it or anything? I could do some research, I suppose. But if you have a link, that'd be great if you could send it to me.
It doesn't matter. I mean, his thing is, I'm trying to. Let me quickly tell you about mine. I don't care about his. His is kind of bull. But what I'm talking about is I haven't taken a shower for a couple of years myself, and I don't use processed water. I don't use any of the perfumes or treatments or the steroids or the shampoo. You were talking about your friend about the hair. My hair, people are noticing that I've known for a long time that my hair is returning because I haven't done this in several years.
You haven't used shampoo or washed your hair or anything like that?
No.
Do you use
I don't.
anything on your hair at all?
My hair, I use hydrogen peroxide on my head for years. It stays clean. I used to have sebaceous excretions, they call them, all over my head when I was younger, and they persisted with all the shampoos. Since I've gone this way, I have a perfectly healthy scalp. My hair is coming back. I don't smell. My pits don't smell. I could wear my clothes for a week if I wanted to.
Let me ask you, Mr. X, let me ask you a couple questions, okay? First of all, how old are you? How old are you?
I am 62.
And what's your hair like? Color, thickness?
It was thin on top, but it's white and beautiful everywhere else. Long white beard, long white hair.
How interesting is that? Well, Mr. X, that's some great information. I'm going to start to dig into that, and I can see what you're saying. I can totally see your point. I always had a problem with people just smearing stuff all over their skin as if they were, as if the skin was some inert covering of some kind that was separated from the rest of the body, and that's really why I came out with these products that I was talking about.
Well, I got to do some.
That's some good information, Mr. X. Thank you.
All right. There's some more specifics, but
anyway, I'd love to hear
start.
some more. I want to get a couple more calls in, and I also we have a guest coming up at the bottom of the hour. But if you want to call back, I'd love to talk to you some more. It's very intriguing. All right, I'm going to let you go, Mr. X. Hope you're not. Are you doing some moonshine out there in the woods in Tennessee? You don't do that probably, Mr. X. You sound too healthy for that. All right, thanks for your call. That was definitely interesting. All right, Paul in New York, what's up? Welcome to the bright side.
How you doing, folks? It's Ben.
Doing good.
That's good.
Is this chicken foot, Paul? Chicken foot? Is this chicken foot, Paul? No.
No.
No, another Paul. Okay, what's up, Paul? How can I help?
Paulie Y. Basically, I was on the beach with the, bathing suit. You got that mesh in the bathing suit, and it scratched me all up down there.
Scratched you all up down there? The mesh did?
Yeah. I didn't realize it was happening.
What is it, chain mail or something? Is it like metallic? I don't understand how that happened.
I don't. There might have been some sand in my bathing suit. I don't know.
You're all scratched up down there. Is that what you're telling me, Paul?
Yeah, really bad.
Get yourself some omega-6 healing cream. You could use that. You got to get that on the internet, truthtreatments.com. If you want to go to the drugstore, get some zinc oxide. Zinc oxide is one of the great all-around healing remedies that you can get at a drugstore. I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
Okay, wait. I want to write this down because I'm going crazy here. Zinc oxide?
Zinc oxide for all superficial skin wounding emergencies. It's not magic or anything, and omega-6 healing cream and vitamin C is probably more effective. But if you can, you got an emergency, you can get zinc oxide pretty much anywhere, any drugstore.
Okay.
Sometimes they keep it in the back. Sometimes they keep it in the pharmacy.
Okay, zinc oxide, right?
Zinc oxide paste. It's white. The good stuff is white. Yeah, is that it?
Put it on my nose.
Yeah, it's good for your nose. It's good sunscreen. Good for babies. Good for diaper rash. Zinc oxide is amazing. Your skin stores zinc. In normal skin, there's a bunch of zinc, and every time you cut yourself, the zinc sort of migrates to the area, to the cut, to accelerate its healing. Zinc is extremely important for stimulating the production of collagen.
Okay.
And so topically,
I hear that thing going off, but I have a few other questions I got to ask you about.
You want to call tomorrow? I got a guest coming up at the bottom of the hour, but you're welcome to call tomorrow, Paul. Take your first up. Tell our call screener we left you on hold, and I'll get you first up. All right, that's all the time we got for phone calls here. We got Jonathan Graff coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk about hair loss. You're listening to The Bright Side on Genesis Communication Network. We'll be back after this. All right, we are back on The Bright Side. Thank you for joining us. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific, 10 to 11 Central, and 24/7 on our archive page, brightsideben.com. Also our blogs, pharmacistben.com and criticalhealthnews.com. I am pleased to welcome to our show, to the bright side, Jonathan Graff. Jonathan is the Director of Clinical Education at Apira Science. I hope I said that right. He's a speaker, and he's also an expert in hair loss. And we're going to talk about the 3 ways, at least Jonathan's 3 ways, of reversing hair loss. The only 3 ways of reversing hair loss. Welcome to the bright side, please, Jonathan Graff. Greetings, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Ben.
Thank you for wanting to be on. Appreciate it. So you're a hair expert, huh? Is that fair?
Well, that's what they're calling me.
Okay.
I actually worked with the top doctors in the United States for over 10 years, helping run their clinics, and spoke to, I think the last count was over 11,000 individual patients who came in to talk about their hair loss options.
Now, how did you get
during that time?
How did you develop this expertise? You're not a medical doctor, correct?
No, I'm not. I'm the Director of Clinical Research and Education at Apira Science.
Okay.
It's close with the Apira. But because of the background I have, and in working with the top researchers in hair loss options and the top medical doctors who specialize in hair loss in the country for so long, basically I take the technology and the expertise of those doctors, and my job at that time was largely explaining it to the layman who came in. Medical doctors, though brilliant, aren't always the best person to explain those options to a layman.
They're not always brilliant either, FYI.
Well,
just saying.
I speak at a lot of medical conventions, so I think a judicious silence is my best reply to that.
Okay, good. That's fair. That's fair. All right. So here's the deal, though. Are you you're an educator, though, primarily? Is that your background, education?
Yes, I'm largely an educator.
Got it.
My job is I speak at medical conventions, dermatology conventions, surgical, et cetera, on here are the options that are available that are clinically tested and proven, and also FDA cleared. That's very important, especially in a medical thing. While FDA clearance doesn't denote necessarily that it works, I'm a fan of anything that works.
It's safe.
It's safe. It's also specifically for hair loss, you have to prove efficacy also, depending on
what do they mean? How do they define it? I'm a pharmacist. You may know this. I'm a pharmacist, and I've compounded lots of minoxidil. In fact, that was one of the first products I ever made was high concentrations of minoxidil, and I know a lot about minoxidil. Here's the deal. What I saw with some of these remedies, specifically minoxidil, which back in the day was the only really effective topical product, it probably still is the only effective topical product that you can use for hair loss, you always got peach fuzz. You know what I'm saying? So how are they defining effectiveness?
Well, you can define there's a clinical effectiveness and there's cosmetic efficacy.
Okay.
You can say, look, this regrew hair. Well, okay, but cosmetically, to your average layman, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Do I look different with that much hair?
Yes.
That's what's important. It's like saying, look, you can lose a certain amount of weight with this diet. Well, yes, but if I look the same, what difference does it make?
Exactly. So if you get 22% more hair, but nobody notices the difference, who cares, right?
Well, for minoxidil, I also I remember when minoxidil was prescription only. It's a high blood pressure medicine.
A nasty drug, FYI. One of the nastiest antihypertensives out there. Well, they don't even use it anymore. It's so nasty.
No. When applied topically, though, all of the science behind it. I actually worked with one of the doctors who did the clinical studies on it way back when for hair loss. And basically, it fools your hair into thinking it's more alive than it is. It puts it on a respirator is the easiest way to explain it.
Because of the blood supply. It increases blood supply probably and hormones and such. Is that the idea?
Basically, yes. That also means you apply it topically, preferably twice a day, forever. If you stop using it, if you use it for 5 years and stop, you'll have 5 years of hair loss probably within a year because you took it off the respirator, so it dies.
So now here's the question that I want to ask you, and I want to get to these other two strategies. Don't you think it'd be more appropriate if we really are interested in keeping the hair on the head or reversing hair loss that we figure out why are we losing it in the first place?
Well, for most people, there are different types of hair loss.
Okay.
Most people suffer from androgenetic alopecia, which is just a fancy way of saying genetic inherited hair loss. That's a combination of genetics and hormones. Genetically, every hair on your head is programmed to be more or less susceptible to different hormones that are in your body. The weak hair goes, the strong hair stays. How much weak hair did you inherit? That's how bald you're going to be. You don't have a lot to say about that.
It's strictly a factor of inheritance, or is that just one of the factors?
Well, that's the fact. That's the major factor for genetic hair loss, which is the type of hair loss most people have. There are different types of hair loss out there, which is why when I would see people in consultation, I'm losing my hair because of this, because of stress, because of my hormones, because of I used to swim in a pool all the time, or I wear hats all the time. In most cases, it's not the case.
Mm-hmm. People have a lot of beliefs and ideas about what their hair loss is. They attribute their hair loss to certain things, and it's just kind of like superstition or just old wives' tales kind of wives' tales.
But I think I put a charitable spin on it and then say that we will accept something we feel we have some control over. However, I think it's also like yes, and I'm overweight because I'm big boned. No, I swallow a lot of pizzas and beer and don't exercise.
Okay.
How
about pizzas and beer and not exercising and hair? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. How about pizzas and beer and not exercising and hair loss, which doesn't seem like they'd be connected, but could there be a connection?
No, There has been no specific clinical study against placebo to show that. How about that?
All right. How about nutritional deficiency?
Well, but the type of hair loss that comes from different factors they don't look the same.
Uh-huh.
Much like a chemical burn doesn't look like a sunburn.
Got it. So you can tell by looking at somebody's head or hair loss what kind of hair loss they're dealing with? Can you as an expert do that?
A doctor can. Because genetic hair loss is a medical condition, you need a doctor to diagnose that. But there are certain things that has a look to it. In men, if you're losing hair specifically on the top of your head, not the sides, use a little bit of logic. If it's because I wash my hair differently or I have a dirty scalp. The top of your head is not dirtier than the sides of your head. That's not logical. There would be a lot more bald homeless men, and I've never seen one.
Okay, get your point. I got your point there. So the middle part.
Nutritional hair loss tends to happen all over your head, not just in a specific area.
It's thin, like your hair will thin, it'll come out more evenly distributed as it falls out.
In men, genetic hair loss tends to happen from the top of the ears up. In that whole area, it can recede, it can get thin. If you can lose the whole area, you can get a bald spot that kind of gets wider. In women who lose hair just as often as men, it just looks different because they have different hormones. You see that part line that just gets wider. You see the general thinning through the whole front and top area. Sometimes women can also lose hair globally or all over their head genetically, which is why there are different treatments available and things like hair transplantation, for instance. While they work on women, a lot of women are not good candidates because there's nowhere to take the hair from if they're losing it all over their head.
Have you heard of this phenomena or this concept called epigenetics?
Epigenetics?
Have you heard of that? EPI, epigenetics?
No, but it sounds like it's something to do with a skin condition.
No. Epi meaning transcendent to or above genetics. It describes the factors that turn the genes on and off as epigenetic factors. But I was just wondering if you had heard of that.
I have a bit because there's some research that's being done right now for different factors that might be able to flip those switches.
Yes, exactly. That's what epigenetics is about. All right, well, we got to take a break, Jonathan. I want to get to these other two strategies or two. They're not really, one is a strategy. We'll get to these two other secrets, if you will, for reversing hair loss. We're talking to Jonathan Graff, Director of Clinical Education at Appear Science about hair loss. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. Okay, we are back on The Bright Side talking to Jonathan Graff, Director of Clinical Education at Appear Science, speaker, medical conventions, seminars, media events around the country and abroad. And hair expert. We're talking about hair loss. Jonathan, so 3 ways. You got 3 secrets, as you say. And by the way, are you just educating people about this, or what does Appear Science do?
Well, Appear Science is it's a manufacturing company. It's a company that does research into and produces products specifically for skin and hair treatments using a technology called low-level light therapy or phototherapy. They produce phototherapy devices for skin and hair.
Okay, so that's one of your secrets, actually. So we got minoxidil. That's not much of a secret because it doesn't really work very well, and you got to deal with minoxidil and get a prescription. What's the second one?
Well, minoxidil is now over the counter. The problem with minoxidil is really just getting people to do it enough for it to work.
The over-the-counter stuff is really mild, though. It's like 1% or 2%.
It's about 5%. Yeah.
Is it 5%?
Yes, and I've seen people get results with it. It's difficult to see how well those results can affect a person because most people don't use it enough to get the best results possible. And that's the problem with most hair loss treatments. Like the biggest problem with weight loss treatments is people stop before they're thin. They require ongoing treatment over a long period of time, which is very difficult to sustain for the best results. Now, I'm not against anything, even the nostrums people may be trying. I'm for anything that works. There's very little that has been clinically shown to work. So that combination of do anything that works, but I'm a cynic.
Okay, so we got the minoxidil. Then what's the second one?
There's minoxidil. There's a drug called finasteride, which is known by the brand name Propecia right now.
Proscar for prostates too.
Yeah, it's a prostate medication under a much higher dose. A small dose, 1 milligram of finasteride, is called Propecia. What it does is simply it stops the body from converting testosterone into dihydrotestosterone or DHT. In men, DHT is the main hormone that triggers genetic hair loss. So if you suppress the production of that hormone, the hair loss stops, and it's been clinically shown very effective. Of course, it's a prescription drug, so speak to your doctor about it. There are the possibility of side effects, sexual side effects, which frighten a lot of men. It's a prescription drug, though. I've seen people get very good results with it.
Yeah.
It does require you speak to a doctor about it because it also requires ongoing use to maintain effectiveness.
Better than minoxidil, or same?
Well, it's different because it's been shown to stop hair loss, not really produce a lot of hair or full hair. So if you can get, but hair follicles are programmed to basically just little growing machines. So if you can stop the things that's killing it, that hair can recover. As long as there's some hair left in the follicle, all viable hair loss treatments require that there be some hair left in the follicle. So any area that's shiny bare is not going to see much result with any treatment.
So what does it look like when there's hair left in the follicle, but you're bald still?
Well, if there's hair left in the follicle, then you're not completely shiny bare. Anybody who is, shiny up top.
Shiny means dead.
Usually, yes.
Essentially.
That's the problem with a lot of men's hair loss is we wait too long. A man will have 3 hairs left on his head and say, I'm thinning a little, maybe I should do something. Well, you waited a long time.
What is it about hair, Jonathan? As a hair expert, why do we love hair so much? What is it about hair?
Boy, I don't know. I think we equate it, for men and for women, we equate a lot of hair with youth, vibrant vitality, health. Someone with a thick, rich head of hair just looks youthful and vibrant and healthy. It doesn't have anything necessarily to do with that, but that's what we equate it with.
We associate it with youthfulness.
You do. A 30-year-old man who's completely bare on top, in our minds, he looks 50. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking 50 if you're 50, but not a day before.
Okay. All right.
All right. That's one of the main things.
So you got the third secret here, and I'm intrigued by this, and this is actually what you guys are about, apparently. Tell us about low-level light therapy. Well,
low-level light therapy has been around for different medical applications for decades, actually. Phototherapy can be explained this way. Human beings are photosensitive. Our cells react to different wavelengths and powers of light. The chemical reactions happen in cells. That's why you use different wavelengths to get a different reaction. For many, many years, dermatologists are using, say, blue light, a specific power and wavelength of blue kills bacteria, so they use it for acne treatments. Mm-hmm. Red light seems to have the broadest and widest medical applications. Mm-hmm. Red light is used for anti-aging because different wavelengths in the red spectrum and different treatments basically can trigger the cells to be more productive. They make them work harder and do what they do better. And skin cells and hair follicle cells, they're just self-repairing machines.
So your light is a red light. You take advantage of red frequencies? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Uh-huh. The wavelength used to stimulate hair loss seems to be between 650 to 670 nanometer wavelength.
Which is red?
It's in the red spectrum. Yes, it's a specific range of spectrum within red. Delivered at a specific strength, stimulates the hair follicles to be more productive. So as long as they're not completely dead, if there's any life left in that follicle, even if it's shriveled down to a little hair, that hair can recover and become the hair it once was, growing vibrantly at about a ½ inch a month throughout its growth cycle.
And these are treatments that you guys do in your office kind of thing?
Well, we did for many years. We produced the most widely used clinical version of this a big hood that looked like the old-fashioned hair dryers you see in salons. And it worked very well as long as you can convince somebody to show up in your clinic 3 times a week for 6 months. And it goes the way of many of my gym memberships pretty quickly.
Okay, but did they get hair? Did they grow hair?
Yeah. Yes, it worked very well. But again, you spend half your time. There's a medical again versus the practical, and your staff would spend half of its time convincing people to show up for their appointments, and they wouldn't. What we did was then take that technology and put it into a home use device, put it into a hands-free home use canopy that you wear on your head on a headphone platform to keep it stable, and you plug it into the wall for a consistent power supply. Push a button. Basically, you can do it now at home, like a lot of these treatments are going home use because they require such consistent use over time. We then subjected it to 2 double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical studies, published those results and the studies in peer-reviewed medical journals, submitted them to the government, got FDA clearance for men and women. Remarkably, in our clinical studies, everybody in the non-placebo group grew hair. to different levels. Some people a little, some people a lot. The average clinical result was 35 to 37%.
I want to hear about the lot. I want to hear when you say a lot. People actually, let me just digest this, okay? You're saying you have a home device that people can buy, and some people who use it grow a lot of hair. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Huh. That's very interesting.
I can talk about. Well, I can just go with some of it, some reports, and some of it was clinical. I can discuss the clinical, saying here are the hair counts we did in our specific clinical study. That was not. It wasn't a consumer survey saying how many of you think you grew hair, which is what a lot of these things that people are looking at actually are. 4 to 5 people reported. Don't tell me what you report. Sit down and count the actual results. So the actual clinical results for the iGrow was 35% more hair in men, 37% more hair in women in 16 weeks of treatment.
And it's called an iGrow? What did you call it?
It's the iGrow Hair Growth System, which you can see on www.igrowlaser.com. It's a home use.
The letter I, G-R-O-W.
Correct. It's a home-use, low-level light therapy system that has been clinically tested and FDA cleared for genetic hair loss in men and women and showed remarkable results in the clinical studies. Now, what that 35 to 37% more hair in 16 weeks translates to visually, some of it has to do with the individual. 10 pounds on me doesn't look like 10 pounds on you, for instance. But yes, it's a significant change. Now, hair loss is progressive. When you experience genetic hair loss, it gets worse fast or it gets worse slow. It always does. It doesn't get better on its own. We don't use them. So if over the course of 6 months you actually see more hair, not less, that's a good sign something is working.
That's pretty cool. Now, have you explored using red pigments with this device to amplify the red frequencies, like keratines or anything like that, astaxanthin, those kinds of stuff, those kinds of
it doesn't. Yeah, we haven't because it doesn't seem to. It hasn't really seemed to affect results a huge amount. There's a specific wavelength and power that seems to be optimal, and exceeding that. For instance, the treatment protocol we use for the iGrow is put on your head and push the button every other day, 25 minutes for about 4 months. Well, what if I do it every day? Well, you can. It doesn't seem to increase the results. You plateau.
In other words, you reach a saturation point where you don't get any more benefit. We're out of time, Jonathan, but that was very, very fascinating. iGrow.com, is that what you said? iGrow.com? iGrowlaser.com.
It retails there at $695. There's a 6-month satisfaction guarantee, but certainly you can go on iGrowlaser.com and feel free to email us or call us, and we'll be happy to answer questions to make sure that it's appropriate even before you buy.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Jonathan Graff of Pure Sciences. It's iGrow.com. Grow some hair. Thanks for listening, friends. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have an awesome, wonderful, beautiful day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.